The stars burned cold and distant as the largest war fleet in known history gathered at the edge of human space. Over 2,000 warships floated in the darkness, their metal hulls reflecting the light of distant suns. The fleet belonged to the Korthax Dominion, a powerful alliance of 12 alien species that had ruled this region of the galaxy for 300 years. Admiral Veshkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Triumph. His four eyes scanned the tactical displays that showed every ship in his massive fleet. The admiral's scaled skin was dark blue, marked with the silver patterns that showed his high rank. He had commanded fleets for 40 years and had never lost a battle. Today would be no different. The Dominion had sent him here with a simple mission. Humanity, a young species that had only reached the stars 200 years ago, had refused to pay tribute to the Dominion. They had rejected the treaties. They had said no to the alliance that every wise species eventually joined. The Dominion Council had decided to teach these humans a lesson that the entire galaxy would remember. Veshkar pulled up the intelligence reports on human military strength. The numbers made him feel almost sorry for them. Humanity had perhaps 200 warships scattered across their 30 colony worlds. Their technology was adequate for fighting pirates and defending against small threats, but against the Dominion fleet, they had no chance. It would not even be a real battle. It would be an execution. The communication officer turned toward the admiral. "Sir, the ultimatum period ends in 2 hours. We have received no response from the human government." Veshkar nodded slowly. He had broadcast his message 3 days ago. The humans had 3 solar rotations to surrender. They would become a protected species under Dominion law. They would pay tribute, yes, but they would live. The alternative was the complete destruction of their military and the occupation of their worlds. It was not a difficult choice, yet the humans had remained silent. "They are probably arguing among themselves," said Commander Ralph, Veshkar's second-in-command. Young species often struggle to accept reality. They still think they are special. Other officers on the bridge made clicking sounds that passed for laughter among the Korthax. Veshkar did not join them. He had read the human history files carefully. These creatures were strange. They had fought terrible wars among themselves for thousands of years. Their homeworld had nearly destroyed itself multiple times, yet they had survived and reached the stars. They were resilient, he would give them that, but resilience meant nothing against superior force. The tactical officer spoke up. "Admiral, we are detecting a ship emerging from faster-than-light travel at the designated meeting point." Every eye on the bridge turned to the main display. A single ship appeared on the sensors, exactly where the ultimatum had told the humans to send their surrender delegation. The ship was large for a human vessel, perhaps a heavy cruiser based on its size. It sat alone in the empty space between the Dominion fleet and human territory. "One ship," Ralph said, his voice filled with confusion. "They sent one ship?" Veshkar leaned forward in his command chair. His tactical mind raced through possibilities. Was this a messenger ship coming to negotiate terms? Perhaps a sacrifice, one ship sent to die bravely so humanity could say they fought back? Or maybe a trick. A ship loaded with explosives meant to damage a few Dominion vessels before the real battle began. "Scan that ship," Veshkar ordered. "Full spectrum analysis. I want to know everything about it." The science officers bent over their instruments. Across the Dominion fleet, hundreds of captains were surely asking the same questions. The communication channels buzzed with chatter as commanders speculated about human intentions. Minutes passed. The human ship did not move. It simply waited there, as if it had all the time in the universe. "Scan complete, Admiral," the lead science officer reported. "The vessel appears to be a human heavy cruiser. Length approximately 800 meters. Mass within normal parameters for a ship that size. We detect standard fusion reactors, conventional shield generators, and what appear to be magnetic acceleration weapons. No unusual energy signatures, no obvious superweapons or exotic technology." Ralph made a dismissive gesture with his upper arms. "Just a regular cruiser. Perhaps they truly have given up and sent this ship to discuss surrender terms." "Hail them," Veshkar commanded. The communication officer worked his console, and moments later, the main screen shifted to show the interior of the human ship's bridge. A human female sat in the command chair, wearing a dark blue uniform with insignia that marked her as a captain. Her skin was brown, her hair black and pulled back in a tight style. Her eyes were calm, showing no fear at all. I am Admiral Veshikar of the Korthax Dominion, he began, his voice carrying the weight of authority. You are in violation of Dominion space. Identify yourself and state your intentions. The human woman smiled slightly. I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Human Star Collective ship Indomitable. I'm here as the commanding officer of humanity's response to your ultimatum. Where is the rest of your delegation? Veshikar asked. Where are your ambassadors, your politicians, your military leaders? I am the military response admiral, Chen replied. This ship is humanity's answer to your threat. Silence filled the bridge of the eternal triumph. Veshikar felt confusion turning to irritation. You mock the Dominion with a single ship? Not at all, Chen said, her voice perfectly calm. We simply determined that one ship would be sufficient for this situation. Now Ralph stepped forward, his anger clear. Sufficient? Human. Do you understand what you face? We have over 2,000 warships. Your entire species has barely 200. You send one cruiser against a fleet that could turn your worlds to ash and you claim it is sufficient? Captain Chen's expression did not change. Yes, Commander. That's exactly what I'm saying. The bridge erupted in angry voices. Officers demanded permission to destroy the arrogant human ship immediately. Some laughed, thinking this was some kind of human joke they did not understand. Others felt insulted that the humans would treat the mighty Dominion with such disrespect. Veshikar raised one hand and silence returned. His mind worked through the puzzle. Humans were not stupid. Their intelligence files showed them to be cautious in military matters, perhaps even too cautious. They planned carefully. They studied their enemies. Why would they send a single ship unless they truly believed it could accomplish something? A cold feeling touched the admiral's hearts. Captain Chen, he said slowly, what makes you believe your ship can stand against my fleet? We didn't come here to stand against your fleet, Admiral, Chen replied. We came here to give you one chance to avoid a terrible mistake. Turn your fleet around, go home. Forget about humanity and our territory. If you do this, we'll forget this ever happened. No one needs to die today. And if we refuse? Veshikar asked, though he already knew his answer. The entire Dominion was watching this encounter. He could not retreat from one ship without destroying his reputation and his career. Captain Chen's smile faded. Her eyes grew hard. Then we'll be forced to demonstrate why humanity doesn't need a large fleet, Admiral. We'll show you what we've been building while you were counting ships and measuring gun barrels. The communication ended. The human ship remained where it was, waiting alone in the darkness, surrounded by thousands of enemies. Veshikar stared at the tactical display. Every instinct told him something was wrong, but pride and duty left him no choice. He would advance. He would crush this single ship, and then humanity would learn the price of defiance. Admiral Veshikar paced across his bridge, his clawed feet clicking on the metal floor. The human ship still floated there, motionless and waiting. 20 minutes had passed since Captain Chen had cut communications. 20 minutes of silence that felt heavier than it should. Admiral, Commander Ralph said, breaking into his thoughts, we cannot simply wait here. The entire Dominion is watching this confrontation. Every species in the sector has their sensors pointed at us. If we do nothing, we will look weak. Veshikar knew his second officer was right. News of this encounter was already spreading through the galaxy's communication networks. Merchants, diplomats, and spies were all reporting what they saw. The mighty Dominion fleet held at bay by a single human ship. Every species that the Dominion had conquered or intimidated was watching to see what would happen next. What are the humans doing? Veshikar asked the tactical officer. Any changes in their status? No, sir. The ship maintains position. Shields are at standard levels. Weapons are not charging. They are simply waiting. This was wrong. Everything about this situation felt wrong. Veshikar had fought many battles against many species. He knew the signs of fear, of desperation, of bluffing. But this human captain showed none of those signs. She acted like someone holding all the advantages, not someone facing impossible odds. Science section, Veshikar called out. Run the scans again. Deeper this time. I want to know if they are hiding something. The science officers worked in silence for several minutes. Veshikar watched the data stream across his displays. The human ship was definitely real. It was definitely alone. The power readings were consistent with a normal cruiser. There were no cloaked ships hiding nearby. No massive weapon systems disguised as something else. Just one ship. Admiral, the scans show nothing unusual, the lead science officer reported. The ship is exactly what it appears to be. A heavy cruiser with conventional technology. Then why? Routh demanded. Why send it alone? What possible strategy could this serve? A junior officer spoke up hesitantly. Perhaps it is a cultural thing. Maybe human honor requires them to face us even when they cannot win. Or perhaps they are insane, another officer suggested. The psychological profiles noted that humans sometimes make irrational decisions based on emotion. Veshkar considered both ideas and rejected them. He had studied humanity carefully. They valued their people. They mourned their dead. They wrote elaborate laws to protect even a single life. They would not waste a ship and its crew on a meaningless gesture, unless they did not believe it was meaningless. Communications, Veshkar said. Open a channel to the human ship again. Captain Chen's face appeared on the screen almost immediately, as if she had been waiting for his call. She looked completely relaxed, as if she were discussing something trivial, instead of facing a fleet that could destroy her in seconds. Admiral, she greeted him. Have you made your decision? I have questions first, Veshkar replied. You are clearly an intelligent being, Captain. You must understand that your ship cannot defeat my fleet. So I ask you honestly, what is your purpose here? Are you buying time for your colonies to evacuate? Are you hoping to negotiate while appearing strong? Chen shook her head slowly. No evacuation, Admiral. Our colonies are continuing their normal operations. As for negotiation, I already gave you our terms. Leave and everyone lives. Stay and we demonstrate our capabilities. Capabilities? Veshkar repeated the word carefully. Captain, our scans show your ship has no special weapons. No super technology. You are one cruiser against 2,000 warships. What capabilities could possibly matter? The human captain leaned back in her chair. Tell me, Admiral, when was the last time the Dominion faced a serious military challenge? The question surprised Veshkar. We fought the Tresh Rebellion 18 years ago. And before that? The Sector Wars 43 years ago. So 60 years of mostly peaceful expansion, Chen said thoughtfully. You've been so powerful for so long that most species surrender without fighting. And when they do fight, you simply overwhelm them with numbers and firepower, standard tactics, standard weapons, everything by the book. That is the nature of power, Veshkar replied. We are strong because we have more ships, better coordination, and superior resources. This is not a secret, Captain. This is simply reality. It was reality, Chen corrected. But reality changes, Admiral. While the Dominion was building fleets and conquering planets, humanity was fighting a different kind of war. We were at war with physics itself, Rolf snorted. Meaningless words. Philosophy will not save you from plasma fire. Chen's eyes shifted to the Korthax commander. You're right that philosophy won't save us. But applied science will. You see, humanity learned something important from our history. We're not the strongest species. We're not the fastest or the toughest. But we're very, very good at solving problems in new ways. She stood up from her chair and walked closer to the screen. For the past 80 years, humanity has been working on a single question. How do you fight when you're outnumbered? How do you survive when the enemy has more guns and more ships? The answer isn't to build more of the same. The answer is to change the rules of the game entirely. Veshkar felt his spine ridges tighten, a biological response to threat. What have you built, Captain? That's the question, isn't it? Chen smiled again, but this time there was something dangerous in that expression. The Indomitable represents 3 generations of human scientific achievement. Every breakthrough we've made in quantum mechanics, field theory, spatial manipulation, and systems integration went into this ship. We didn't build a bigger gun, Admiral. We built something that makes your guns irrelevant. Impossible, Rolf declared. Our intelligence has monitored human research. You have made no significant breakthroughs in weapons technology. You're absolutely right, Chen agreed. We haven't made breakthroughs in weapons technology. We made breakthroughs in fundamental physics. There's a difference. Veshkar's tactical mind raced through the implications. If the humans were telling the truth, if they had developed something genuinely new, then the Dominion's standard tactics might not work. But that was a big if. More likely, this was a bluff, an attempt to make the Dominion hesitate and doubt. Prove it, Veshkar said suddenly. Prove you have this miracle technology you claim. Demonstrate your capabilities before we engage. Chen shook her head. I can't do that, Admiral. If I demonstrate our technology now, you'll just study it and adapt. You'll retreat, analyze what you've seen, and return with countermeasures. The only way this works is if you commit to your attack and learn the hard way. Then we are at an impasse, Veshkar said. I cannot retreat based on threats alone. You refuse to demonstrate your capabilities. Logic dictates that I must assume you are bluffing. Logic dictates many things, Chen replied quietly. But logic also says that a species doesn't send a single ship against a massive fleet unless they have a very good reason. Logic says that confidence without apparent cause usually means hidden strength, and logic definitely says that underestimating your enemy is the fastest way to lose a war. She stepped back to her command chair. I'll make this simple, Admiral. You have 3 options. 1, you turn your fleet around and leave. No one loses face because you can say you chose mercy over slaughter. 2, you send a small force to test us and they'll learn what we can do. 3, you attack with everything at once and you'll still learn what we can do, but more painfully. I choose option 4, Veshkar said coldly. I destroy your ship, occupy your worlds, and teach the galaxy that threats mean nothing without power to back them up. Then I'm sorry it came to this, Captain Chen said, and she actually sounded sincere. I genuinely hoped you would be wiser. For what it's worth, Admiral, your crew will survive what comes next. We don't want to kill anyone. We just want to make our point very, very clear. The communication ended again. Veshkar turned to his officers. Deploy destroyer squadrons 3, 7, and 9. 36 ships total. They will close with the human vessel and disable it with minimal damage. I want that ship captured and its captain brought before the Dominion Council. And if she truly has some new weapon? Rolth asked quietly. Then 36 ships will learn what it is, Veshkar answered. And we will adapt accordingly. But I do not believe she has anything that can threaten a full Dominion fleet. Proceed with the attack. Orders flowed through the fleet. 36 destroyers moved forward in perfect formation, their weapons charging, their shields bright. The single human ship waited for them, alone in the darkness, facing impossible odds with impossible confidence. The 36 destroyers of the Korthax Dominion moved through space like a school of predatory fish. Each ship was 300 meters long, bristling with weapons and protected by shields that could withstand sustained bombardment. Their captains were experienced officers who had fought pirates, rebels, and various other threats. They moved in a textbook formation that maximized their firepower, while minimizing their vulnerability. Admiral Veshkar watched from his flagship as the destroyers closed the distance to the human ship. The tactical display showed perfect coordination. Every ship knew its role. Every weapon system was ready. This was the Dominion way, refined over centuries of warfare. The destroyers are entering optimal weapons range, the tactical officer reported. They will open fire in 30 seconds. Veshkar leaned forward in his chair. This was the moment of truth. Either the human captain was bluffing, and her ship would be disabled in the opening salvo, or she actually had something new. Part of him almost hoped for the second option. War had become boring when every enemy simply surrendered or died quickly. A real challenge would be interesting. On the display, the human ship finally moved. But it did not turn to run or maneuver defensively. Instead, the Indomitable accelerated directly toward the attacking formation. It was the opposite of what any rational commander would do when outnumbered. The human ship is charging our destroyers, Rolth said with disbelief. They are actually attacking. All ships open fire, the destroyer squadron commander ordered over the tactical channel. Space lit up with weapons fire. Plasma bolts, magnetic accelerator rounds, and missile salvos all converged on the human ship from multiple angles, hundreds of shots, all perfectly aimed by computers that could track a target down to the centimeter. It was enough firepower to destroy a ship 10 times the Indomitable's size. Every single shot missed. Veshkar's spine ridges shot straight up in shock. On the tactical display, he could see the weapons fire passing through the space where the human ship should be. But the ship was not there. Except it was there. The sensors showed it clearly, but the weapons could not hit it. What just happened? Ralph demanded. Our targeting computers are the best in the galaxy. How did we miss at optimal range? The lead science officer frantically checked his instruments. Admiral, the human ship is generating some kind of field. It is interfering with our targeting systems. No, wait, it is more than that. The ship appears to be in multiple positions simultaneously. Our sensors show it at specific coordinates, but when our weapons reach those coordinates, the ship is somewhere slightly different. That's impossible, the tactical officer said. Matter cannot exist in multiple places at once. Quantum mechanics says it can, the science officer replied. At the subatomic level, particles exist in probability clouds rather than fixed positions. But scaling that up to a ship-sized object should be impossible. The energy requirements alone would be staggering. Veshkar ignored the technical discussion and focused on what mattered. Can our ships adapt their targeting? They are trying, Admiral, but the human ship is not predictable. It is not simply jamming our systems. It is fundamentally changing how targeting works against it. On the display, the Indomitable reached the destroyer formation. It did not fire any visible weapons. Instead, something pulsed outward from the human ship. A wave of energy that was barely visible on the sensors. The wave passed through 12 of the destroyers in an instant. Those 12 ships simply stopped moving. Their engines cut out. Their shields collapsed. Their weapons powered down. They continued forward on momentum alone, but they were clearly dead in space. Report, Veshkar snapped. What happened to those ships? The communication channels filled with confused voices from the affected destroyers. Their captains and crews were alive and unharmed. But every major system on their ships had shut down simultaneously. Emergency power systems were not responding. Backup generators would not start. It was as if someone had flipped a switch and turned off 12 warships at the same time. The remaining 24 destroyers scattered in panic, breaking their perfect formation. Some fired wildly at the human ship. Others tried to retreat to a safe distance. A few brave captains attempted to ram the Indomitable, using their ships as weapons since their guns were useless. None of it worked. The human ship moved through the destroyer formation like it was dancing. It was never where the Korthax expected it to be. Every few seconds, another pulse of energy would reach out and touch another destroyer, and that ship would go dark and drift helplessly. In less than 5 minutes, all 36 destroyers were disabled. Not destroyed, not exploded, just turned off, with their crews alive inside metal coffins that would not obey any commands. The bridge of the Eternal Triumph was completely silent. Every officer stared at the tactical display in shock. The human ship sat calmly in the middle of the disabled destroyer squadron, completely undamaged, waiting. Admiral, the communication officer said quietly, Captain Chen is hailing us. Put her on screen, Veshkar ordered, his voice steady despite the cold fear growing in his hearts. Captain Chen appeared, still looking calm and professional. Behind her, Veshkar could see her crew working at their stations with practiced efficiency. Admiral, I want you to understand something important. Those 36 ships are intact. The crews are safe. In about an hour, their systems will begin rebooting and they will regain control. We could have destroyed them. We chose not to. What did you do to them? Veshkar asked. We used what we call cascade disruptors, Chen explained. They are not traditional weapons. They do not damage or destroy. They simply convince every electronic system in a targeted ship that it is time to shut down. The effect is temporary, but while it lasts, the ship is completely helpless. Ralph stepped forward. No weapon can do that. You would need to hack into each individual ship's computer systems, and our systems are protected by multiple layers of security. You are thinking about this wrong, Commander, Chen replied. We are not hacking your computers. We are manipulating the fundamental electromagnetic fields that all electronic systems depend on. Your computers, your power grids, your weapons, they all run on electrical current. We have learned how to generate fields that interfere with those currents on a quantum level. Your security systems cannot stop us because we are not actually attacking your systems. We are changing the physical laws they operate under, at least temporarily. Veshkar felt his mind struggling to process what he was hearing. If humanity had truly developed this technology, then everything the Dominion knew about warfare was outdated. Shields, armor, weapons, none of it mattered if an enemy could simply turn off your ship with a wave of energy. You are one ship, Veshkar said, trying to find some advantage. Even with this weapon, you cannot disable 2,000 ships before we destroy you. Are you certain about that, Admiral? Chen asked. You just sent 36 experienced captains and well-armed destroyers against me. They all failed to land a single hit. They all ended up disabled. What makes you think sending more ships will have a different result? Numbers, Rolf answered for his admiral. Eventually you will make a mistake or run out of power, and we have plenty of ships to sacrifice until that happens. Chen nodded slowly. You are not wrong, Commander. The Indomitable does have limits. If you attacked with your entire fleet at once, all 2,000 ships, you would eventually disable us through sheer overwhelming force. Of course, you would lose hundreds of ships in the process. maybe thousands. Your fleet would be crippled. And for what? To conquer a species that only wants to be left alone. She paused, letting her words sink in. I am giving you another chance, Admiral. You have seen what one human ship can do. You have seen that we do not want to kill your people. We disabled those destroyers instead of destroying them. But if you continue this attack, I cannot guarantee that everyone will survive. War has a way of escalating beyond anyone's control. Veshkar turned away from the screen and looked at his bridge officers. He saw doubt in their eyes. They had watched the destroyer squadron fail completely. They had seen tactics that should be impossible. Every officer on this bridge was now wondering if they would be the next ones drifting helplessly in space, trapped in a dead ship. But Veshkar was an admiral. He had not risen to his position by giving up when faced with a challenge. Captain Chen, I acknowledge that you have impressive technology, but the Dominion does not surrender to threats no matter how advanced. If you will not leave human space voluntarily, then we will force you out. I was afraid you would say that, Chen replied, and she genuinely looked sad. All ships power up to full combat status. Show the Admiral what the Indomitable can do when we stop being gentle. The human ship began to glow with energy. The sensors on the Eternal Triumph screamed warnings as power levels inside the Indomitable climbed to levels that should be impossible for a ship that size. Whatever the humans had built, it was about to show its full capabilities. Veshkar straightened in his command chair. All ships, battle formation Alpha. Prepare for fleet-wide assault. We will show these humans that technology means nothing against superior numbers and determination. 2,000 warships powered their weapons and shields. The largest fleet in Dominion history prepared to crush a single ship. And Deep-Dew Admiral Veshkar made his decision. Pride, duty, and political pressure all pointed in the same direction. The Dominion could not back down from a single human ship, no matter how impressive its technology seemed. If word spread that the mighty Dominion fleet had been turned away by one vessel, every conquered species would start questioning whether they needed to stay under Dominion rule. Communications. Send orders to all fleet commanders, Veshkar said. We will attack in 3 waves. First wave consists of 200 cruisers and destroyers. They will engage from multiple vectors simultaneously. Second wave will be our carriers and their fighter squadrons, 500 small craft total. Third wave will be our dreadnoughts and heavy cruisers, another 200 capital ships. The remaining vessels will stay in reserve. Rolth studied the tactical plan and nodded approval. A sound strategy, Admiral. The first wave will force the human ship to reveal the full extent of its capabilities and exhaust its exotic weapons. The fighters will overwhelm its defensive systems. The dreadnoughts will deliver the killing blow. Exactly, Veshkar agreed. No single ship, regardless of its technology, can withstand this level of coordinated assault. Captain Chen will learn that innovation cannot defeat proper military doctrine. The orders went out across the fleet. 200 ships moved into position, surrounding the Indomitable on all sides. They formed a sphere with the human ship at the center, positioned so their firing solutions would not risk hitting friendly vessels. It was a formation designed to trap fast-moving raiders. Against a single stationary target, it was absolute. All ships report ready, Admiral, the tactical officer announced. First wave, you are authorized to engage, Veshkar commanded. Disable if possible, destroy if necessary. 200 warships opened fire at the same moment. The vacuum of space filled with energy weapons, kinetic projectiles, and guided missiles. It was a storm of destruction that converged on the Indomitable from every angle. No ship could dodge fire coming from all directions at once. No shield could withstand that much concentrated power. The human ship did not try to dodge. Instead, something changed around it. The sensors on the Eternal Triumph showed a massive distortion forming around the Indomitable, like space itself was bending and twisting. The distortion grew into a sphere that surrounded the human ship completely. The weapons fire reached the sphere and something impossible happened. The energy beams curved away as if repelled by an invisible force. The kinetic rounds changed direction in mid-flight, their trajectories bending around the sphere. The missiles spun in confused circles, their guidance systems unable to find a path to their target. Some of the deflected weapons fire curved back toward the attacking ships. Plasma bolts that were meant for the Indomitable instead struck the Korthax cruisers that had fired them. Missiles designed to destroy the human ship exploded against Dominion shields. The perfect sphere of attackers became chaos as ships scrambled to avoid their own weapons. What is that? Rolth shouted over the confusion on the bridge. What kind of shield can redirect incoming fire? The science officer worked frantically at his console. It is not a shield, Commander. The human ship is manipulating space-time itself. They have created a region of curved space where the normal rules of physics are altered. Weapons fire cannot reach them because the space between us and them is bent in a way that makes a straight line impossible. Beskar struggled to understand, but that would require the same level of power that moves a ship through faster-than-light travel. They would need a massive energy source. They apparently have one, Admiral, the science officer replied grimly. On the tactical display, the Indomitable stopped being simply defensive. The distortion sphere collapsed and the human ship began to move. But it was not normal movement. The ship seemed to skip from one position to another without crossing the space between. One moment it was at the center of the attacking formation. The next moment it was next to a Korthax cruiser. Then it was a kilometer away near a different ship. They are creating localized distortions in space-time, the science officer explained as he watched. They fold space, move through the fold, and unfold it. They are essentially teleporting short distances, and wherever the Indomitable appeared, it released pulses of the same energy that had disabled the destroyers. But this time the pulses were stronger and faster. Ships died by the dozens. Their lights went out. Their engines stopped. Their crews found themselves drifting in dead metal boxes, helpless and terrified. The Indomitable danced through the attacking formation like a ghost. It was never where the Korthax ships expected it to be. Their weapons could not track something that moved by folding space. Their tactics assumed an enemy that followed normal rules of physics. But the human ship played by different rules entirely. In 10 minutes, all 200 ships of the first wave were disabled. Not a single human weapon had been traditional. No missiles, no energy beams, no kinetic rounds. Just those pulses of energy that turned mighty warships into expensive debris, and the Indomitable remained completely undamaged. Beskar stared at the tactical display in growing horror. His best ships, his experienced crews, his perfect tactics, all meaningless against technology that rewrote the foundations of space combat. For the first time in his 40 years of command, he felt genuine fear. "Admiral, the fleet is requesting orders," the communication officer said nervously. "Should we proceed with the second wave?" Before Beskar could answer, Captain Chen's face appeared on the screen again. This time she was not calm. She looked tired and sad. "Admiral, please stop this," she said quietly. "You have lost 236 ships and not one person has died yet. We are keeping them alive because we do not want to be murderers. But if you send more ships, the energy requirements will increase. Systems will begin to fail in ways we cannot control. People will start dying not because we want to kill them, but because war is chaotic and unpredictable." She leaned forward, her eyes intense. "I know you cannot surrender without losing honor. I know the Dominion Council is watching. I know that retreating from one ship would make you look weak. So let me give you an alternative. Send your carrier wings. Send your fighter squadrons. Let them attack us with everything they have. When we disable them all without a single fighter landing a hit, you can tell the Council that you faced an enemy with technology beyond anything the Dominion has ever encountered. No one will question your decision to retreat then." Routh turned to Beskar. "It is a trap, Admiral. She wants us to commit our fighters where she can destroy them easily. Or she is telling the truth," Beskar said slowly, "and she is giving us a way to save face while demonstrating her superiority." He thought about the 200 disabled ships, the complete failure of standard tactics, the impossible technology that bent space and disabled ships with a touch. He thought about his crews, thousands upon thousands of soldiers who trusted him to lead them wisely. He thought about the consequences of pride versus the cost of continued fighting. "Deploy the carrier wing," Beskar ordered. "All fighters full assault pattern. If Captain Chen wants to demonstrate her superiority, we will give her that chance." 500 fighter craft launched from the Dominion carriers. They were small, fast, and heavily armed. Their pilots were among the best in the fleet, trained to exploit any weakness. They swarmed toward the Indomitable like angry insects, firing as they came. The human ship did not create its space-time distortion bubble this time. Instead, it began moving in ways that should not be possible. It accelerated and stopped instantly with no transition period. It changed direction at sharp angles without slowing down. The laws of inertia seemed not to apply to it, and as it moved, it released smaller pulses of its disruption energy. Fighters fell from the sky not in flames but in silence, their systems shutting down one by one. The pilots would survive in their suits until they could be rescued, but their craft were dead. The Indomitable moved through the fighter swarm like a dancer, never touched, never slowed, systematically disabling every single craft. The pilots tried everything, every trick they knew, every tactic they had learned. Nothing worked. In 15 minutes, 500 fighters floated dead in space, and the human ship remained perfect and undamaged. Captain Chen appeared on screen again. Her face was harder now, less sympathetic. That is 736 disabled ships, Admiral. 736 crews that will need rescue. 736 vessels that will need months of repair. And we are just one ship. Just one, she paused. I am going to open fire on your flagship now. Not to destroy it, not to kill you, but to prove a point. Your shields will not stop us. Your armor will not protect you. Your weapons will not save you. When you feel your ship systems begin to fail, remember that we could have killed everyone on board, but we chose not to. Remember that humanity offered you peace and you chose war. The communication cut off. Alarms screamed across the bridge of the Eternal Triumph as the Indomitable appeared just a few kilometers away. Far too close for such a large vessel to approach without being detected earlier. The human ship pulsed with energy. Veshkar felt his flagship shudder. The bridge of the Eternal Triumph was dark except for emergency lighting that cast everything in a dim red glow. Admiral Veshkar sat in his command chair, surrounded by dead consuls and silent officers. His flagship, the most powerful ship in the Dominion fleet, had been reduced to a floating metal box in less than 30 seconds. Around him, his crew worked frantically with manual tools trying to restore even basic systems, but every time they managed to get something online, it would shut down again moments later. The human ship had done something to the Eternal Triumph systems that went beyond simple damage. It had fundamentally broken the way their technology worked. Admiral, Rolth said quietly, using a handheld light to see his commander's face. We have confirmed that life support is stable. The emergency batteries are functioning. We are not in immediate danger, but we are also completely helpless. Veshkar nodded slowly. Through the viewport, he could see the Indomitable hanging in space like a predator watching its prey. It had not moved after disabling his flagship. It was simply waiting. The message was clear. Humanity could destroy them at any time. They were choosing not to. Communication status? Veshkar asked. We managed to restore short-range radio, a junior officer reported. We can talk to nearby ships, but not the entire fleet. Contact the other flagships. I need to know the status of the remaining fleet. Over the next hour, as crews worked to restore basic systems throughout the disabled ships, a picture emerged. 737 Dominion vessels were dead in space. That included Admiral Veshkar's flagship, 200 cruisers and destroyers, and more than 500 fighter craft. Every single one had been disabled without being destroyed. Every single crew had survived. The remaining ships of the fleet maintained their distance from the human vessel. No commander wanted to be the next victim of the Indomitable's impossible technology. They waited for orders that Veshkar could not send because his communication systems were not working. It took 3 hours before the Eternal Triumph's engineers managed to restore main communications. When they did, Veshkar immediately received dozens of urgent messages from his fleet commanders. Some wanted to continue the attack. Others argued for retreat. A few suggested using their most powerful weapons, the planet-killing missiles that were normally reserved for the most extreme situations. But all of them were afraid. Veshkar could hear it in their voices. The confidence that had filled the fleet just hours ago had been replaced by doubt and fear. They had all watched 700 ships be disabled by a single enemy vessel. They had all seen their best tactics fail completely, and they all knew that if they continued fighting, they would probably be next. Admiral, Captain Chen is hailing us again, the communication officer announced. Put her on screen, Veshkar ordered. Captain Chen looked different now. She seemed older, more tired. Admiral, I hope you have had time to think about your situation. 737 of your ships are disabled. Their crews are safe, but the ships themselves will take weeks or months to repair, and we did that in less than an hour. One ship against your entire fleet, she paused. I want you to understand something important. The Indomitable is not a superweapon. It is not something magical or impossible. It is simply the result of 3 generations of human scientists working on a single problem: how to survive when we are outnumbered. Every piece of technology on this ship is based on proven physics. Quantum mechanics, relativity, field theory. We just applied those principles in ways no one had thought of before. Why are you telling me this? Veshkar asked. Because I want you to understand that this is not the limit of what we can do, Chen replied. The Indomitable is the first ship of its kind. We have 6 more in construction. In 5 years, we will have 50. In 10 years, every human military vessel will have some version of this technology, and we will keep improving it, keep refining it, keep making it better. She leaned closer to the screen. But here is the important part, Admiral. We do not want to use these ships. We do not want to fight the Dominion or anyone else. We just want to be left alone. We want to explore the galaxy, meet new species, learn new things, and live in peace. The only reason we built the Indomitable was because species like the Dominion kept threatening us. Ralph, standing beside Veshkar's chair, spoke up. You say you want peace, but you have just humiliated the most powerful alliance in the sector. You have shown our weakness to the entire galaxy. Do you think we can simply forget that? I hope you can, Chen said simply. Because the alternative is much worse. If the Dominion continues to see humanity as an enemy, we will continue to develop better weapons. We will share our technology with other species who feel threatened by the Dominion. We will build alliances based on mutual defense against your aggression. And eventually, the Dominion will find itself surrounded by enemies who can all defend themselves. She sat back. Or you can accept that the galaxy has changed. You can recognize that humanity is not a target for conquest. You can send ambassadors instead of warships. And you can help us build a galaxy where power comes from cooperation instead of domination. Veshkar felt the weight of the decision before him. As a military commander, his instinct was to fight, to find a weakness in the human technology and exploit it, to bring overwhelming force and crush this upstart species before they became an even bigger threat. But as a leader responsible for thousands of lives, he had to face reality. The Indomitable had proven its superiority in every possible way. It could not be targeted. It could not be hit. It could disable ships faster than the Dominion could deploy them. And if the humans truly had more ships like this being built, then continued conflict would be suicide for the Dominion fleet. Captain Chen, Veshkar said slowly, choosing his words carefully. If I order my fleet to withdraw, what guarantees can you give me that humanity will not use this technology to threaten Dominion worlds? None, Chen answered honestly. You will have to trust us just as we are trusting you by not destroying your fleet when we had the chance. Trust has to start somewhere, Admiral. Let it start here. Veshkar looked at Rolth, at his bridge officers, at the tactical display showing his crippled fleet. Then he made his decision. Commander Rolth, send orders to all ships. We are withdrawing from human space. Disabled vessels will be towed to safe distance for repairs. The fleet will return to Dominion territory. Admiral, the Council will demand an explanation, Rolth warned. Then I will give them one, Veshkar replied. I will tell them that humanity possesses technology we cannot defeat with conventional tactics. I will tell them that continuing this war would cost thousands of lives and hundreds of ships. And I will recommend that the Dominion opens diplomatic relations with humanity immediately. He turned back to the screen.
Captain Chen, my fleet will withdraw.
But I have a question for you. Why did you really do this? You could have destroyed us. You could have killed thousands of Dominion soldiers and sent a much stronger message. Why choose mercy? Chen smiled slightly. Because humanity learned something from our own history, Admiral. We learned that enemies today can become friends tomorrow, but only if you leave them alive and give them reason to choose friendship. We learned that the strongest victory is not the one where you destroy your enemy, but the one where you convince them to stop being your enemy. She stood up. Your disabled ships will begin recovering in approximately 1 hour. Their systems will reboot automatically. We have sent repair instructions to your engineering teams. In 3 days you should be able to move under your own power. We will monitor from a distance to ensure you get home safely. You would help us? Veshkar asked, surprised. Of course, Chen replied. You are not our enemy, Admiral. You never were. You were just someone who did not understand that humanity had changed the rules. Now you understand. Now you can go home and help others understand too. The communication ended. Veshkar sat in his darkened bridge and watched the human ship on the viewport. It remained nearby, not threatening, just present. a silent guardian making sure the Dominion fleet could recover. Over the next 3 days, exactly as Captain Chen had promised, the disabled ships slowly recovered. Systems rebooted, engines came back online. The massive fleet that had come to conquer humanity instead began the long journey home, humbled and changed. News of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light. Every species heard the story of how humanity's single ship had defeated the Dominion's greatest fleet without killing a single soldier. Some species celebrated, others worried about this new power. But everyone understood that the galaxy had changed. 3 months later, Ambassador Chen, sister to Captain Sarah Chen, arrived at the Dominion Council chambers. She came not with threats but with offers of technology sharing, mutual defense treaties, and cultural exchange. The Council, still shocked by their fleet's defeat, agreed to formal diplomatic relations. 5 years later, the Dominion and humanity were not enemies anymore. They were not quite friends, but they were partners in keeping the peace in their region of space. Other species that had suffered under Dominion rule found their voices again, knowing that alternatives to submission existed,